my mind. In both situations, actually, I am not rising to any higher consciousness. That means if you go back to the example of the inner screen, first on the inner screen comes a image. Come on, shout at this person, and I identify with that. And after that, the same inner screen comes. Come on, why did you get angry? Why did you get angry? And again, we identify with that. So as long as we keep identifying with the mind, it's impossible to either resist the mind or to go beyond the mind. So sometimes I feel I'm beating myself up. See, sometimes we make mistakes. And yes, we want to learn from our mistakes. But when we are ourselves hurt by the mistake, then if somebody is already feeling very bad, oh, they made this terrible mistake. Then if somebody chastises them, that chastisement doesn't really help them much. Because they are already feeling bad, they will feel even more demoralized, even more discouraged. So when we are down, first the mind pushes us down, and then it kicks us. Stay down, stay down. Sometimes we think, I've fallen now, let me fall completely. That's how the mind plays a double role by which it deludes us. So when we understand this trickery of the mind, then going back to the point of intention. Intention means that, yes, in the heat of that moment, at that time, something happened for me. But no matter what happens, I am determined to serve Krishna. My intention to serve Krishna is not going to waver. Krishna says in the 9.29, 30, 31 in the Bhagavad Gita, 9.30 he says, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisi. He says, even if my devotee commits a terribly wrong activity, suduracharo, but bhajate mam ananya bhak, it is determined to serve me. Without deviation is determined to serve me. What does this mean? Now, if the devotee is determined to serve Krishna without deviation, then how can that devotee do something wrong? That means, in the heat of the moment, something happens. But as soon as that heat of the moment is over, the devotee is determined to come back. The devotee doesn't lose heart and give up. Oh, I can't do it. Srila Prabhupada also writes in the 3rd chapter, I think 31st, 32nd verses, where that for those who faithfully abide by my words, they will ultimately become liberated. So then the Prabhupada says that sometimes initially following the principles of spirituality may be difficult. But if one doesn't resent the principle and tries to humbly practice as much as one can, one will gradually grow. So changing our mind requires changing our relationship with our mind. Changing our relationship means we don't identify with the mind. As in we identify the mind. And even after, if something wrong has been done, it's not that we have to keep beating ourselves up. Beating ourselves up is not going to give us strength. It is picking ourselves up that is going to give us strength. Picking ourselves up means, again I have to serve Krishna. Okay, whatever happened, let me practice bhakti. Let me associate with devotee. Let me study scriptures. Let me do my seva. By this, I will become stronger. So what will make us strong is not beating ourselves up. What will make us strong is picking ourselves up and connecting with Krishna. So, Mam chayo avyavicharena bhakti yogena sevate. This seva bhava Krishna talks about, that means that the devotee's intention to serve Krishna is not lost. Even sometimes something happens, oh, this went wrong, I made this mistake, this person did like this bad thing happened. But still Krishna, you are my Lord, I am your servant. If we have that strong intention, how much that intention is translated into execution, that will vary according to the situation. That will vary according to the conditioning of the mind. But at least the intention is maintained. So another example is, say we are rowing a boat through an ocean. We want to go in a particular direction. And if a strong wave comes in the ocean, then our boat may also get swept in that direction. So at that time we can't resist it. But just because our boat was swept away in another direction, doesn't mean that we just have to give up our attempt and go along in that direction. After the wave has gone, and again we steer back and forth and come back. So the intention to move towards Krishna remains strong. And if that intention remains strong, everything else will follow from that. If that intention becomes weak, then we just become a slave of our mind. So I'll talk about 3 examples to illustrate what I mean by changing our relationship with our mind. The mind is like a child. It's restless. Whatever catches the child's attention, hey, let's watch this, let's play this, let's do that. The mind is very restless. Of course, children here are special. They are not restless. So, wish our mind could be as stable like them. So now, if you consider the mind is like a child. Now say, the child has to study for an exam. And a mother comes and says, mother says to the child is playing along. Now it's time for studying. The child may not want to study. She says, no, I want to play. Okay, the mother says, you can play for some time, but now you have to study. Now, if someone imagine the child, some children are so sweet, so disarming, that they just have the sweet, innocent looking face. And whatever they say, everybody else wants to do that too. Krishna was like a child like that. Whatever he would say, everybody would do that. Suppose the child is very sweet, very innocuous looking, and then the mother who has come to get the child to study, the mother forgets that, and the mother starts playing with the child. Mother spends hours and hours playing with the child, and the studies are forgotten. Then the mother is meant to help the child grow up. The child is not meant to make the mother like a child. So the intelligence has to be like the mother. And the mind is going to be like a child. Sometimes it will I like this, I do it. I don't like it, I won't do it. But if the intelligence is strong, the intelligence gradually persuades the mind. Continue this. So we all will go through these difficulties. Basically we can have difficult situations externally and we can have difficult emotions internally. And both are equally difficult. Sometimes the difficult emotions internally are a result of the difficult situation externally, or sometimes the difficult emotions internally are the causes of the difficult situation externally. Sometimes some people are very disagreeable, and just being with them, it's a big strain. Some people, when we are with them, it feels such a joy being with them. Some people, as soon as they come in, you feel now every step is like walking on a mine. What will cause the explosion? I don't know. It said that some people bring happiness wherever they go, and some people bring happiness whenever they go. And ironically, it may be that the same person brings happiness to one person and other person takes away happiness. So it's not just how they are, it's actually how our mind perceives them also matters. So some people, they are so disagreeable that being with them creates a difficult situation. But some people somehow, we just don't like them. It may not be that they are disagreeable, but some people we just don't like them. So there is a negative emotion within us about them. And that negative emotion the difficult emotion creates a difficult situation. So whatever it is, whether it's a difficult situation or a difficult emotion, or a combination of both. So in this situation, it's like a wave that has come, just sweeping us away. Now, we may get temporarily swept away, but as soon as the wave subsides, we come back. So our mind will say, I just don't want to do this. Okay, I understand. You don't feel like doing it. I understand that. This is important. Let's do the best that we can. Just like a mother is artful in somehow trying to get the child to do what needs to be done. The children don't want to eat food. So parents sometimes have to do all kinds of things to get the children to eat food. So like that, our mind is sometimes like that, and we have to find the best way to make the mind do what needs to be done. So we become like the intelligence. Now here, becoming like the intelligence means that we have to understand that not only we are different from the mind, that becoming like a parent or a mother means that understand we are different from the mind, but also that we are bigger than our mind. Our mind has a particular emotion within it, and that emotion is there. We can't deny it. denying or suppressing our emotions doesn't help. I'm feeling angry. I'm not feeling angry. I'm not feeling angry. No, I can't deny that. I am feeling angry. So, just like if I have some pain in my body, saying that I'm not feeling any pain, that doesn't help. The pain is there. I may decide, in spite of the pain, I'm going to do this. That is determination. But denying the pain is not determination. Denying the pain is just living in illusion. If I say some sports player, some batsman is there, batsman has some, say, hamstring is injured, they can't run. But say it's a very important match, and I want to play this match. So despite the injury, I'll play. Now the injury is there, the pain is there, you acknowledge it, but the determination is in spite of that I'll play. So we acknowledge, but our determination, yesterday I mentioned determination means that our intention stays above our emotion. Our emotion is there, but our intention stays above the emotion. Just like a player may play in spite of the injury, sometimes we may have some negative emotions, and denying or suppressing them doesn't help. We acknowledge, yes, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling angry, or rather the mind is saying I'm feeling angry, and I have to acknowledge it is there, but I move forwards. So how do we do this? I took the example of a TV screen. Yesterday I was saying that we cannot stop what channels are being broadcast on our TV, but we can choose which channels we watch. There's a horror movie, horror channel, because I don't want to watch it. It is there, I don't want to watch it. So similarly, if we consider in our mind, it's like a screen. There are various channels going on, there are various windows that are open, and we can't shut down, but we can choose. Which do I focus on? This is there, I acknowledge it and I just push it aside. Window, I move it aside and I focus. So this is where the intelligence and its conviction comes into the picture. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about this very interesting verse, 2.70. Apuryamana machala pratishtham samudrama pavishan yadvad tadvad kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantimapnoti nakama kami. Just as rivers flow into an ocean, but they do not disturb the ocean. Similarly, desires flow into the consciousness of a spiritualist, but they don't disturb the spiritualist. Now, what is Krishna saying exactly by this verse? If we see, normally we consider desires as something flowing out from us. We see some delicious object, yeah, I want to eat that. We see a good looking image, oh, I want to see that, whatever it is. So, it is desires which flow out from us. But here Krishna is talking about desires as something flowing into us. They feel like rivers flowing into an ocean. So the significant word over there in the verse is Kama Kami. Kama Kami means the desirer of desire. So we could talk about desire in two terms. Desire means like a tempting stimulus coming into our consciousness. And we could talk about desire as our intention to pursue that consciousness, pursue that stimulus. I see that. That looks like a good looking movie. I will watch it. So, if we are, say, traveling an international plane to India or something, then what happens? On all the seats in front of us, there are TV screens. And on each TV screen, some movie is going on. And something is here, one movie going on, here one movie is going on, here one movie is going on. And now, if all those movie screens are there, we have no power to turn all of them. They are all going to go on. So, as far as the visual stimuli coming in from all those screens, we can't stop it. That is desire coming in. That is like a river flowing into the ocean. So that is, we can't stop that. But when Kama Kami, desire of desire means, when that stimulus comes in, the response, if we are looking, hey, that movie looks interesting, let me watch it. Then on our own screen, we will look at the channel, we will find out where is that movie and we will start watching it. So, the stimulus coming in, we can't stop. But the intention going out, we can stop that. So, we were talking earlier about devotion is, we cannot be unbreakable in action, but we can be try to be unbreakable in intention. So, here Krishna is saying, Don't be a desirer of desire. That means stimulus may come in, temptation may come in, but the intention to accept that temptation may not come within us, did not come within us. Now, how does this happen? If our consciousness is like an ocean. If our consciousness is like a puddle, if a river comes inside a puddle, or if it comes inside a small pond, the river will get disrupted. But if the river comes into an ocean, it will not be disrupted. So if our consciousness is like a tiny puddle, or even like a small pond, then the desires coming in will disrupt the consciousness. But if our consciousness is like an ocean, then the desires coming in will not disrupt it. The emotions that arise within the consciousness, they will not disrupt. So how do we make our consciousness like an ocean? Ultimately, it is Krishna who is the Sabasukha Sagar, Sabaguna Agar. So he is the ocean of all happiness. When we invoke the presence of Krishna in our consciousness, then our consciousness becomes oceanic. So when Krishna is present in our consciousness, when we are connected with Krishna in our consciousness, then even if temptation comes in, we don't feel agitated. Say, if you attend a very nice, inspiring program, a nice kirtan, nice darshan, and after that we go home and then somebody says something to us, this is not like this, you are like this, somebody even speaks something critically. If we are internally happy, we don't feel so disturbed by it. Or even if somebody says, come on, eat this sweet, or come on, let's go for a party. I'm happy, no need to go. So if we are internally contented, then we will not get disturbed by small things, nor will get tempted by other things. So another example to illustrate this point of the ocean is, let's say if somebody has $5 million with them, and then they're walking along the road, and from their pocket a $5 bill falls off. And they try to get it back. But in the $5 bill, some beggar comes and picks it up. I say, okay, you take it. And then they just goes away somewhere in the road. It will not chase after it. Or, so if there is no $5 million, and $5 is all that one has, and somebody that $5 starts going away, I want it at all costs. Or say, if you don't have $5 million, then somebody says, I'll give you this $5. Now, I may be going along this path, but if somebody says, you come with me, I'll give you $5. Okay, I'll go with you. So if you have $5 million, we will not go after $5. But if you don't have the $5 million, then $5 may appear. We get it. So $5 million are like worldly pleasures and worldly pains. Sorry, $5 million is like our bhakti. And $5 is like our worldly pains and worldly gains, the worldly emotions associated with worldly ups and downs. So when we are internally empty, then any small problem that comes up, that just exhausts, that just causes an explosion. Sometimes we may have an experience, like we tell something to someone, can you please pick that up? And they suddenly explode. Why are you always finding faults with me? Oh, you're like this, you're like that. What did I do? We just a small point, just pick it, and then just got so angry. Now what had happened in that case? Maybe it may be that, they had a bad day, and one person said something, they tolerated it. Second person they said, tolerated it. Third person they tolerated it. And 10 people said, just tolerate it. But by the time the 11th person came, we happened to be the 11th person. And all the accumulated frustration of the previous 10 people just came out on us. So, now generally if you consider various emotions, say if we are greedy, if greed comes in this, okay, I want that thing. Then the trigger of the desire and the target of the desire are the same. What triggers the desire? Oh, they got a new phone, I want that new phone. So the trigger and target are the same. But with respect to anger, quite often the trigger and the target are not the same. The trigger is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes we go to the office and the boss is just shouting at everyone. Why? Because maybe the boss had a quarrel at home, no, they can't shout at their spouse, so they're shouting at their subordinates. So the trigger and target is different. Now why I'm saying this is that our consciousness doesn't stay in a static state. Sometimes it will be like an ocean, and sometimes it may just become like a puddle. When in the Ramayana, Ram is exiled to the forest. At that time, after his exile, Lakshmana is furious. And Lakshmana says, no, we should protest against this, we should rise in rebellion against this. So Ram says, that actually is destiny. He says, only cowards consider injustice to be destiny and accept it. He says, heroes fight against it. Then, at that time, Ram says, you know, Kaikeyi, her love for me was so pure. She loved me as much as my own mother Kaushika loved me. He said that her love for me was like the Ganga flowing incessantly. So Lakshmana says, still angry, he says, that's what I can't understand. How did the Ganga dry up in one night? So, our consciousness may be like an ocean. When we connect with Krishna, when we are in a good mood, when we are spiritually conscious, it will be like an ocean. But the worldly ups and downs are like a powerful sun. And the water keeps evaporating, keeps evaporating, keeps evaporating. And then they say, one person did something wrong, I tolerated it. Second person, I tolerated it. So initially my consciousness is like an ocean, I was tolerating. But each installment of tolerance is decreasing the water in the consciousness. And then by the time I come to the 10th person, there is no water left. It's like a small puddle. The 11th person coming like a river coming, big explosion. So sometimes it may happen that somebody may do some small thing and we may overreact. Now that overreaction does not mean that we are a bad person. Sometimes somebody does an overreaction, how could you do like that? How could you speak like that? How could you do that? But that doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It just means that they were going through a bad situation and everybody has their weak moments. And if in the weak moments a provocation comes, people may just do something which they would normally never do. So we cannot judge people just by what they do in their weak moments. If we start judging them like that, then all of us will have our weak moments and all of us will find that we will be judged and we'll all become a very judgmental society. So when some people are overcome by their conditionings and something bad happens, at that time we are meant to be not their judges but their aids. Yes, it is not that you are there, I am here and you are bad. Rather, when this conditioning is there, you are here, I am also here with you. I also have my conditionings. So we are both partners in helping fight this conditioning. So when our consciousness is shrunk from an ocean to a small puddle, that time we become very vulnerable. So to the extent we at least recognize this, then we will try to replenish the consciousness. Now we will try to do activities which again make us strong. Sometimes it's just running, if a car is running without gas, it can't run for long. It will come to a grinding halt. With respect to us internally, we don't come to a grinding halt. So the nature of the mind is that it never stops thinking. It never stops feeling. But imagine if you had a car that if it ran out of fuel, it didn't stop working, but it starts functioning in a completely unpredictable way. It starts going too fast. We press the brake, but still the car keeps moving. We move the wheel in the right direction, but it starts moving in the left direction. We have the space shuttles. Space shuttles, if a car, if it is out of control, if it's out of fuel, it will stop. But in the space, when the spacecrafts are there, if they are out of fuel, they won't stop. If they are in the gravity pull of some planet, they will go down. If they are not in the gravity pull, they will just keep moving here, there and everywhere. And they can become hazards in space. So like that, our mind, when we internally run out of fuel, our mind doesn't stop thinking and feeling. Rather, our mind starts thinking and feeling in a disorderly, wild and dangerous way. So when we ourselves notice, okay, that now my tolerance limit is being reached, then we have to also recognize that we are finite beings. And finite beings means that our willpower is also finite. We all have willpower. By willpower, what I meant? To keep our intention above our emotion. That is determination, that is willpower. But we cannot keep doing that forever. Our willpower is finite. And when our willpower is getting exhausted, at that time, it is our responsibility to replenish it. If we don't replenish it, then we will no longer have willpower. And that doesn't mean we will become powerless. Rather, we will become powerless to resist the mind. We will manage the mind. And the mind will take control. And the mind will make us speak things, do things, feel things, which we would normally never do. So our consciousness can expand like an ocean, or it can contract to become like a puddle or even a desert. And in all situations, we are going to think and feel. But what we think and feel will vary. So once I understand that I am different from my mind, then I can recognize the state of my mind. And when I earlier talked about distancing ourselves from our mind, it is not that we can use our intelligence to keep distancing ourselves for a long time. We will also get exhausted. So we need to regularly replenish ourselves, rejuvenate ourselves. And the best rejuvenation is by our connection with Krishna. It is Krishna is the oceanic reality. And to the extent we invoke Krishna's presence in our consciousness, to that extent our consciousness will also become oceanic. Now, invoking Krishna's presence in our consciousness is not a ritual. It is not that, oh, I just did my chanting, I know it's over. Today I completed my rounds, now I am safe. I did my study of scriptures, I am done now. I came to the temple once a week, that's done. Yes, these are important, but their importance is not just in the physical action. Their importance is in the devotional connection that is meant to be established. Our consciousness needs to connect with Krishna. When we come to the temple, we pray to the deities, when we hear the classes, we intellectually connect with Krishna. So, it is our responsibility to ensure that our consciousness stays connected with Krishna. If our consciousness is not connected with Krishna, then we might be coming to the temple, but we will not be growing spiritually. And sometimes we may come to the temple, and then what happens is, if we are regularly coming to the temple, then we come to the temple and we are looking who has come, who has not come, who is offering me obeisances, who is not offering me obeisances. Our consciousness is not so much offering obeisances to Krishna as in observing who is offering obeisances to. Then we are not connecting with Krishna at all. So if we are not connecting with Krishna, even in temple we have to come to do services. It's important. Services have to be done, but at the same time, we have to know that services are also meant to connect us with Krishna. And if we are just too caught mechanically doing this, doing that, then it will just become like work. We have to do the work for Krishna also. But at the same time, there has to be time when we focus our consciousness on Krishna and are able to absorb our consciousness in it. To the extent we do that, to that extent, then what happens? The river coming into the ocean is a small thing. But if our consciousness is not connected with Krishna, our consciousness is too caught in, there's nothing internally, spiritually nourishing us. Then our consciousness is like a small puddle. And the river coming in is a big thing. And when the river is a big thing, it will disrupt us. So we sometimes just have to face painful situations in life. We can't avoid them. But even if we may have to live with pain, but we don't have to live in pain. Live with pain means pain is a component of our consciousness. Yes, this thing has happened. It is painful, and I can't deny it's happened. But live in pain means that is all that we think about. Say somebody has hurt us, somebody has betrayed us, somebody has done something terrible. Now that terrible thing has happened, but sometimes that terrible thing it's one event that has happened, but it keeps replaying in the mind. How could he say this? How could he do that? How could she speak like that? It goes on and on and on in the mind. And it keeps going on and replaying. Then that replay hurts us much more than the actual event. So now we can't wish away, we can't deny that it has happened. It has happened. And it will hurt us. So we will have to live with that pain. I trusted this person did like this. It will hurt us. But if we keep watching the replay, then we are not living in pain. We are not living with pain, we are living in pain. So the river is going to come into the ocean. The replay is going to happen in the mind. But we need to focus on something else. If we keep focusing on the replay, then it will just hurt us so much. So this is where bhakti is like a journey. Devotion is a path. Sometimes I conclude with two examples or 2 points. Let's study them with examples. That even in our devotion, we have various things to do. We may have a particular service to do. We may have a particular responsibility to execute. We have a particular role to play. But while doing that also, we have to understand that I am not this thing. I may be a preacher, I may be a singer, I may be a manager, I may be a pujari. But these are my services. I am not these things. And in each of our services, we may set goals. I want to distribute these many books. I want to ensure that these many people come for this festival. I want to ensure that we meet this standard in our DT worship. I want to make sure that we get this many funds for our new temple project. Now, all these are important to the extent they inspire us to intensify our devotion to Krishna. Yeah, if we have a target, yes, I'm going to do this. The target inspires us. Let me do this determinedly. But sometimes it may happen that the goal that we set, the goal becomes such an obsession that instead of intensifying our devotion, it becomes a distraction from our devotion. The goals that we set in our devotion are meant to intensify our devotion, not distract us from our devotion. How can they distract us? Say, in the early days of our movement, devotees were very much into book distribution. Of course, we are now also. But each of us comes from a particular mood. We have these 3, I talk about goodness, passion, ignorance. The Bhagavatam talks about bhakti also in the 3 modes. Bhakti itself is transcendental, but we can do bhakti in goodness, we can do bhakti in passion, we can do bhakti in ignorance. So suppose I have got a broken vehicle, and I have also my vehicle is not working well, and I have also lost path. I lost my way. Now, if I found my way, just because I have found my way, does not mean that my vehicle has become alright. My vehicle is still broken. So similarly, all of us, some of us come from ignorance, more of ignorance, some of us come from passion, some of us from goodness. Now, all of us, when we come to bhakti, we understand the destination is right. We were lost, now we have got the right destination. But just because we have got the right destination, does not mean that our vehicle has become right. We may still be in ignorance. And in ignorance, we may, while pursuing the goal of bhakti, act ignorantly. One time there is a temple, there are two devotees in 2 bus parties. And both of them wanted to distribute more books. So both they would have an intense competition, and Prabhupada also encouraged this competition. Encouraging the competition was Prabhupada's way of channeling the passion in devotion. I want to do great things. But sometimes passion can go into ignorance. So one time what happened? One devotee, they just wanted to distribute books more. They wanted to be number one. So early morning, before Mangalarti, one devotee woke up. And he went to the other group's bus party and punctured all the tires. And then they came back and the other devotee, they both after morning program, they came for breakfast, they went out to say, oh, all the tires are punctured. Now, this is terrible. So what has happened? Our goal is to serve Krishna, and that's why we want to distribute more and more books. But if that goal becomes so important that the whole devotional disposition goes away, then what has happened? The goal has become not a way, the goal chat said, has not become a way to the devotion, but has become a distractor from devotion. So that's why our devotion is primarily, it's more a direction than a destination. Devotion is a direction in which we keep moving. Devotion itself never has any end. Even if we go to Krishna's abode, even if we become pure devotees, but still consciousness is going to keep flowing towards Krishna. Devotion is an eternally ongoing process. It is a direction in which we keep moving. If we identify devotion very strongly with a destination, I should be able to do this. And if I am not able to do this, then my emotions go out of control. Why is this not happening? Why is this person not listening to me? Why is this not happening like that? If we become too fixated on any one thing in our life, if that doesn't work, our mind will get agitated. But if you understand this thing is actually a means to that. This is the direction which I want to go. And while going in that direction, if I can go by this destination, that's good. But if I can't go by this destination, still I can find some other way and keep going towards that direction. What does this mean? Practically, all of us, we have various roles in our life. We parents, as I said, in our material life, we parents, spouses, children. Now we all have roles in these. And so in the temple we may have various roles. Now we want to use these roles to do our responsibilities well. But at the same time, if we identify with a role, so if my defining identity becomes, say, I am the mother of so-and-so. If my defining identity becomes, okay, I am the husband of so-and-so, I am the wife of so-and-so. And if there is some disruption or some disturbance in that relationship, if my defining identity is I am the mother of so-and-so, I am the father of so-and-so, and if my child starts going on the wrong track, a child starts doing something which I don't like to do, then I don't just respond to what the child is doing. I start thinking, I am a failure. Because my child is doing this, that means I am a failure. I identify myself as a father or a mother. I think I am a failure, and then my own insecurity comes out in the way I deal with the child. And then we overreact over that. But if I understand that I am a servant of Krishna, as a servant of Krishna, I am a mother. As a servant of Krishna, I am a father. As a servant of Krishna, I am a husband. As a servant of Krishna, I am a wife. And through all these relationships, I am meant to serve Krishna. And sometimes I'll be able to go to Krishna through this way. The channel of my consciousness will move towards Krishna through this. Sometimes there will be some disruption. But that doesn't mean we neglect or reject the relationship. But we don't get fixated on that relationship. If we identify too much with our relationships, then the emotions that arise in those relationships just drive us out of control. So, a few years ago there was this, not a few, 7-8 years ago, the Cricket World Cup, in India, Sri Lanka met in the finals, and India won. So after that, there are at least 5 people reported in Sri Lanka who committed suicide. Why? It's because their team lost the match. No, the cricket players did not commit suicide. The fans ended up committing suicide. Why? Because they were so emotionally fixated on that. How could our team lose? So now yes, that okay, thing losing is, yeah, you may feel sad about it. But why end your life? Because they're too emotionally invested in it. I was recently at a I was at a mental health care center, and there's one of the mental health care providers talking with them after my seminar, and he told me that he was in suicide intervention. So suicide intervention is that sometimes some people think that they will commit suicide, but there's a suicide helpline. They will just call to that person, and if that person speaks something inspiring, something wise, then they may just decide, okay, I don't want to commit suicide. So that's like a last SOS before you commit suicide. So this person was telling me about a girl who actually committed suicide. When she took the poison pill and then she caught. So fortunately she was close by, ambulance rushed and saved her. Now what had triggered her to commit suicide? It's just that she was in a relationship with a boy, and she had called this boy and the boy didn't pick up her phone. And just because of that, see, so many times we don't pick up each other's phone. What is the big deal? But for her, she thought, oh, he didn't pick up my phone. That means he doesn't care for me. He doesn't love me anymore. Maybe he's with someone else. Maybe he has abandoned me now. Maybe, he has abandoned me. Maybe others will also abandon me. Maybe I'll be alone throughout my life. All my friends will be in nice relationship. I'll be all alone. They'll all feel pity for me. And instead of living such a pitiable life, better to die. So, a small thing such as just not picking up a phone we don't know, it's like in the inner screen of the mind, what can start off what horror movie we don't know. So the mind can drive people crazy. So here the point I'm making is she became too invested in that relationship. Yes, relationships are important, but she doesn't have to go so invested as if she thinks my life is worthless because this relationship doesn't work out. So if bhakti is not just about chanting Hare Krishna or coming to temple. It's important, but bhakti essentially means redefining our identity. We have to identify ourselves. I am first and foremost a servant of Krishna. And as a servant of Krishna, I am in this role, I am in that role, I am in that role. And I do those roles well because they are services to Krishna. If they don't work, I will still keep serving Krishna in whatever way I can. As parents, we may get very agitated if our children start doing something wrong. And that's it's a responsibility which we have. At the same time, in every relationship, there is time when we guide. Then sometimes we have to just let go. Children have grown up; they are going to have their own life. Sometimes, actually, we surrender to Krishna in two ways. There is one way to surrender to Krishna is Draupadi raising her hands. Krishna, I surrender to you. Another way to surrender to Krishna is like Arjuna. Arjuna picks up his bow. Readiness to fight. Krishna, I surrender to you. I do your will. I will fight for you. So maybe when our children are small, at that time, we are like Arjunas. We are ready to fight against the world to protect our children. But when they become teenagers, when they become young, then our service to Krishna is going to become like Draupadi. Krishna, now I don't have control. That is how it is. So Mark Twain is an American writer. He said that when I was 15, my father was a fool. Now I am 25 and I am amazed how much the old guy has learned in the last 10 years. It's not that the father learned in 10 years, but rather that in 10 years the child grew, from teenager they became an adult. And they started understanding what my father said was right. So, there is this, people go through phases in their lives. And we just can't control them. Sometimes if you become too emotionally invested in any relationship, we might just not be able to function at all because something goes wrong in the relationship. So if we understand this relationship is important, it's my service to Krishna, but it is one service to Krishna. If this does not working out, that doesn't mean my life is a failure. I am still a servant of Krishna and I will still keep serving Krishna. So if we have that understanding, then we can move forward steadily. Ultimately, to redefine our relationship with our mind. Change our mind is we have to change our relationship with our mind. Changing our relationship with our mind requires first and foremost changing our relationship with Krishna. We have to learn to see Krishna is my greatest well-wisher. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. And what does that mean? That means Krishna always loves us. Sometimes we say, I don't have faith. And the greatest faith that we need, if by associating with devotees, hearing scriptures, if we can get this faith that Krishna always loves us, that Krishna is always with us in our hearts, Krishna is always going to be with us, then that can make our intention to serve Him stronger. You know, I may have anger, I may have depression, I may worry a lot, I may have this problem, that problem. All these are weaknesses. But these are not our biggest weakness. Our biggest weakness is our unwillingness to believe that Krishna loves us. That is our biggest weakness. If we can overcome this weakness, and that weakness we can overcome by associating with devotees, by hearing scriptures, especially by associating with devotees who are connected with Krishna, then if that foundational weakness is overcome, if we stay connected with Krishna, then whatever the mind may make us go through, we'll be able to either resist that or recover from that. Sometimes we will not be able to just put it aside, it may push it aside, but we'll again come back on track. So that is, we change our relationship with Krishna in the sense that we become determined with intention, no matter what happens, Krishna, I'm going to serve you. And if we stay, the more we become fixed in our intention to serve Krishna, the more we will be able to manage the mind's ups and downs. The mind will still go up and down, but we will be able to catch it earlier. Hey, this is the mind. Okay. Let me distance with it from it. Let me move forward towards Krishna. Prabhupada, once he was, a devotee wrote to him, a devotee Mataji wrote to him and he said that, Prabhupada, you know, my god brothers are creating so much difficulty for me. So, I feel very discouraged. So Prabhupada replied that my god brothers also created a lot of difficulties for me. But he said, we are working on a platform that is beyond discouragement. He says, we are working to serve Krishna, so there is no need to be discouraged, because Krishna is always with us. So if we, and somehow by hearing scriptures, remembering our favorite pastimes of scriptures, get that conviction, Krishna is always my well-wisher, let me stay connected with Him. Then the mind will slowly become, it will lose its fuel. So for us, we can't keep resisting or rejecting the mind, but for us to distance ourselves from the mind, we have to be like an ocean. And we can't automatically assume that because I am practicing bhakti, my consciousness is like an ocean. The ocean will keep drying up. And that's why we need to keep refilling it. By doing the devotional activities in a way that refills our consciousness, then our consciousness will steadily stay oceanic. And then even if the rivers come in, they will not disrupt us. Then we may have to live with pain, but we won't live in pain. I'll summarize. I spoke today about how we can learn to manage the mind, change the mind by changing our relationship with the mind. And that I talked about various examples, that the mind is like a child. So we have to be like a mother who guides the child, not the mother who becomes like a child. And for managing the mind, we need to recognize that our consciousness has to become like an ocean. The mind will put in desires. So we may have difficult situations or difficult emotions. And sometimes our emotions may make the situation more difficult, or sometimes the situation may make our emotion more difficult. Whichever way it is, if you have to tolerate those difficulties, they are like promise of 5 rupee gain, nice worldly things, or bad worldly things are like a threat of a $5 loss. But our connection with Krishna makes our consciousness like an ocean. It's like a $5 million treasure which we have. So for us, If our consciousness is like a puddle, the rivers of desires coming in will disrupt. And even if our consciousness is like an ocean, that ocean also keeps drying up by life's ups and downs. So, when a person's consciousness is dried up, normally a car, when it is lacking in fuel, it will just stop moving. But when we internally lack fuel, our mind starts becoming more disorderly. Our desires start going wild. And that's why we, those weak movements, may do things which you normally never do. So Krishna says that to overcome the mind, to go beyond the emotions of the mind, we have to become fixed in devotion. And the main theme of our class was, being fixed in devotion means being fixed in intention. In bhakti, sometimes attention may not always be possible, like when we are chanting. But intention is possible. And even if when the waves come and they push us aside, but we come back on track as soon as the waves subside. So the mind plays a dangerous double role. First it makes us rob a bank, and then it becomes the judge who sentences us for robbing the bank. The mind makes us angry, and then beats us up for becoming angry. So instead of beating ourselves up, we pick ourselves. Okay, whatever happened, I am going to serve Krishna. And to maintain our intention, we need to also recognize that Krishna always loves us. That no matter what has happened, Krishna is our greatest well-wisher. Whatever weaknesses may be there because of our conditionings, they are not as weakening as believing that Krishna loves us. If we understand that Krishna loves us and we become fixed in that conviction, then that will become our defining identity. I am the servant of Krishna. And then whatever roles and responsibilities we have, we see them as services. So our being a parent, our being a spouse, our being a particular responsibility, we will see all of them as services to Krishna. But if we are not well connected with Krishna, connection with Krishna makes our consciousness like an ocean. But when we identify too much with any of our roles, then that makes conscious shrink. And then if something goes wrong in that role, our emotions go wild. Because we are too invested. Like somebody commits suicide just because their team loses the match. Somebody attempts suicide just because somebody doesn't respond to their phone call. I mean, they just invested themselves too much in their emotions. So we need to regularly replenish ourselves so that our consciousness becomes like an ocean. And when the consciousness is like an ocean, then even if the world's ups and downs come, they will be like a river entering, they will not disturb us. Then we may have to live with pain, but we won't live in pain. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay. Yes, please.
Why do we forget dreams when we wake up?
Okay. Yeah. Question is, why do we forget dreams when we wake up? Yesterday we had a lot of discussion, questions about dreams. I think it's continuing that question. Many reasons. First is that forgetting is our tendency. Now whatever happens, if we consider what we did 1 week ago, if I ask you, I would say 8:51 p.m. So what we are doing at 8:51 p.m. last Friday? Very difficult to remember, isn't it? We tend to forget. And usually most of our memories are situational. That means, if say last Friday also you had come for a program here in the temple, and then if you come again here, then you will remember last Friday he was there, we did this. When you go home, you will not remember. So firstly, forgetting is our tendency, and we remember most of the time when we are in a situation similar to what situation we were earlier. So usually during our dreams, we go in a very different situation. So sometimes in our dreams, we might encounter some situation which is similar to something we experience in our real life. Then we like, oh, I had this dream. So because our situations in the dreaming and the waking are very different, and most of our memories are situational. That's why we tend to forget what we see in our dreams. Okay? Yes, continue.
Okay, yes, you gave an example of fire in the theater.
Yeah.
And you said that when there is fire, one who runs away in the mode of passion. Likewise, you gave an example.
Correct, yeah.
If I take the same analogy and apply it to material life and take fire as Maya, that when there is Maya, we run into and we want to run away from this material world, go back to the spiritual kingdom, spiritual world. And similarly, somebody who faces Maya and just does nothing about it, and somebody who says, there is Maya, but I want to help others, save them from Maya. That same analogy can be used in this way, that going back to the spiritual world is in a mode of passion, and the other one is ignorance and goodness. And also, likewise, we many times say that, give the example of Hanuman, who fought in the mode of passion, and we say that's transcendental passion. So similarly, is there anything called transcendental ignorance?
Okay. If you consider that, say, there is, if running away when the fire is there, that's ignorance, but is that passion? So can we say running away from the material world towards the spiritual world is passion, whereas trying to help others, that's goodness? I wouldn't put it that way. We could say that wanting to help others and wanting to go towards Krishna is more or less similar, in the sense that how can we help others unless we ourselves are recovered? And if we are recovered, we want to help others naturally, because we see that, oh, I'm sick, I was sick, I'm better now. They're sick, let me help them. But what is valid in your point is that we could say that wanting to ourselves run away from the trouble, some material world, that is more self-centered, and wanting to help others is less self-centered. But there's a pastime, and Prabhupada says that one day one told Prabhupada, I'm going to serve you lifetime after lifetime. And Prabhupada said, don't make me come here lifetime after lifetime to accept your service. So, sometimes there is the desire to go to the spiritual world because simply there's frustration in the material world. But that alone is not enough. Ultimately, we have to have attraction to Krishna. If our impetus is simply frustration in the material world, then that alone is not enough. Because we need positive impetus for continuing bhakti. It's like once, I remember there was one devotee, many years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years almost. He went to his spiritual master. He said, I want to become a brahmachari. He thought his spiritual master would be very happy. You get a well-educated devotee. He said, become a brahmachari. Why do you want to become a brahmachari? So this world is filled with problems. So then the spiritual master said, okay, this world is filled with problems, so you want to come to the brahmachari ashram. And the brahmachari ashram is also part of this world only. So it is also filled, there will be problems here also. Then if you run from the world to come to the ashram, and there are problems, then there will be problems. He started thinking, he said. Then after a few days he came and said, actually, I read Bhagavad Gita, I'm so inspired. And Prabhupada worked so hard for serving Krishna. I want to dedicate my life to serving Krishna. It's I want to join the Krishna. So he said, that is a more positive mood. That is something which will sustain us. So, frustration with the material world, or fear of the material world, the desire that because the material world is such a troublesome place, I want to go to Krishna, that is good as a starting point for bhakti. It is an essential starting point for many people. But ultimately, we want to go to Krishna not because this world is dreadful, but because Krishna is so wonderful. There has to be positive attraction to Krishna. And when that positive attraction is there, that Krishna is so wonderful, then I will be ready to tolerate even this dreadful material world because I want to tell the world how Krishna is wonderful. So, it's just wanting to go towards Krishna, running away from this world is more of passion. Well, passion, I don't know. It could be ignorance also to some extent. At least it's directed towards Krishna, so it could be higher, we don't know. So applying the, Krishna does talk about renunciation in the three modes, but that's a little different dynamic. So what my understanding here would be that as devotees, if we want to help others or we want to go towards the spiritual world, whichever way it is, if it is centered on Krishna. Now, I want to help others, not just that, oh, this person is hungry, I want to help them. I see that it is the connection with Krishna which makes everyone happy. Just as I am connected with Krishna, I want to connect with Krishna. And I want to go to the spiritual world so that I can be better connected with Krishna. We are always servants, but as devotees, in this material world, our body limits us. We want to serve Krishna, but our body just lets us down sometimes. Our mind distracts us. And the world obstructs us. And that's why we can't serve Krishna to our heart's content in this world. That's why we want to go to Krishna. So attraction to Krishna and the desire to attract others to Krishna, that is the essence of devotion. So it could be that somebody is just frustrated in the material world and wanting to go towards the spiritual world. They could be in passion. But it is that also that the important thing is we have to be attracted towards Krishna. Whether we are running away from the world or whether we are running, you could say, towards the world to help people in the world. Central thing is attraction towards Krishna. And we can use passion in Krishna's service. Say like Hanuman used it by fighting. So can we use ignorance also in Krishna's service? Abandon ignorance? Yeah, there are various ways. One is when we sleep. At one level, even when the pure devotee sleeps, sleeping is a function of the mode of ignorance. But when the pure devotee sleeps, their mood is that I want to serve Krishna. And his body is a tool for serving Krishna. So let me take rest. And then they may have dreams about Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even when he was unconscious, he will be thinking about Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes might just be completely unmindful of the world. At one time he heard somebody singing Geet Govinda. And he started running towards that person. Oh, he's glorifying Krishna so nicely. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant came with him. He started shouting, that is a woman. Suddenly when he heard it, he says, oh, you saved my life. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in the mood of Radharani. He was thinking, oh, this is a gopi. She is singing Krishna's word. Let me go and hug this gopi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was his mood at that time. But then, he was so absorbed in transcendence that he was ignorant of the fact that he was in the sannyasi's world. He was in sannyasa ashram at that time. At that time, he reminded, hey. Then he said, oh, you saved my life. So the transcendental absorption in Krishna might create just obliviousness to the world. And that's how some people are what you call, Gaurkishora Babaji was a Bhajananandi, just unmindful of the world. Just didn't care for the world. So yes, transcendental ignorance. We won't use the word ignorance so much because the word ignorance has a jarring connotation to it. We can also say transcendental ignorance is the gopis in Vrindavan sometimes forget that Krishna is God. The same gopis, in the same Gopi Gita, they say Krishna that Panipanarpitam te padambujam Krunakucheshuna krundiruchayam. Say, Krishna, you danced on the serpent Kaliya with your feet and you subdued that. But just 5-6 verses later they say, Shila trunanku nalina sundaram nathate padam Shila trunankurai sidati tina kalilatam manaha kanta gacchati. Krishna, as you're walking in the forest, we think that the pebbles, the stones, the thorns, they will pierce your foot. And I think of your tender lotus foot being pierced by those thorns. Our hearts are like Prabhupada, Krishna, please come back. So they know that same Krishna lotus feet pounded Kaliya's poisonous fangs. But still, when they're thinking of Krishna walking on the forest path, can't tolerate it. So out of their love for Krishna, they forget that Krishna is God. Not forget in the sense of forgetfulness, but at that time, that awareness goes in the background. And that is a bhushana. That is not a dhushana. It is not a contamination, it is an ornament. The devotion is so intense that they forget Krishna's supreme position. So yes, there can be transcendental ignorance also. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It's a wonderful class, very nice lecture. Thank you so much. The question I had is like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shastakam prayers, he says Cheto Darpana Marjanam, to clean the mirror of the mind. And you also gave us various other dimensions of increasing our consciousness, improving our intelligence, and then to control the mind. So does that mean it's all the same, like what Mahaprabhu said about cleaning the mind?
So Mahaprabhu says that you should clean the mirror of the mind. Is it the same as I gave the example of a TV screen or a window or the inner screen? So essentially, the mind has various impressions within it. And the past impressions in the mind become its present propositions. So if somebody has repeatedly drunk alcohol and they pass by a bar, then the past impression, come on, let's go and drink. So all of us have certain impressions in the minds, and they create certain propositions. They make us feel and act in particular ways. But when we clean the mind, then those impressions get removed. Rather, the impressions get replaced by positive impressions with the practice of Bhakti. They go so much into the background that they will no longer prompt us. Like say, if somebody has a computer and say they have visited some website, like say Bollywood.com, many times, and they come to a temple, they attend a program, and then they hear about Bhagavad Gita. They go home and they Google Bhagavad Gita. They type B. And what happens? Bollywood.com comes up. So now, what has happened? That has been stored as a preference based on their past choices. But if they keep going to Bhagavad Gita.com again and again, then gradually that preference will change. And then in future they type B, Bhagavad Gita will come. So similarly for us, we have certain impressions which will keep giving us certain propositions. But Cheto Darpana Mahajana means by repeatedly exposing ourselves to the chanting of the holy names, to Krishna's glory essentially, the impressions in the mind change. And then the mirror of the mind gets cleansed by that. Okay? Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. So, well, I wanted to talk about this thing. I mean, you mentioned about intention, attention, and the action, right? So sometimes intention may be right, and attention and action may not be in line with the intention, right? But it looks like a lot of times mind, even if a little obstacle, it kind of considered it a big storm. So we might say, oh, I have an intention, but I don't want to act. You know, so that mind kind of tricks us all throughout the life. And it looks like whenever that happens, there's always a consequences, right? And I was thinking about the Bharat Maharaj story past time.
Yes.
His intention was always right, but a little bit of misdirected attention, there were a lot of repercussions. So
Yeah.
how do we...
Okay, that's true. Attention and action. But if the attention goes wrong, that may make us do a wrong action, like happened with Bharat Maharaj, and there was consequence of that. And sometimes the mind may also make us feel that a small problem is big, so I can't do it. Yeah. What actions we do will have consequences at the material level. If our intention to serve Krishna is strong, that will act at the spiritual level. Yesterday we had on the first day we had a long question answer about the interaction between material and spiritual. So Bharat Maharaj, he became attached to a deer. If you look at the whole story, his intention was to help that deer. And that action of jumping into the river to save that drowning deer, that was good. But afterwards, taking up the responsibility that I should be the maintainer of that deer, that was where the mistake started happening. So now, because he got attached to that deer, at a material level, because he remembered the deer at the time of death, he got a deer's body. But at the same time, because he had practiced bhakti, he had risen to a very high consciousness. That consciousness was not lost. And that consciousness resulted in his having a deer body but not deer consciousness. In the deer body, he still had human-like consciousness, in fact, advanced spiritual consciousness in the deer body. So that means that our mistake, Krishna if we make some mistakes, at a material level, the mistakes will have consequences. So, Krishna will not overlook our mistakes just because we are devotees. They're not Krishna, because the material nature has its rules. And if I be chanting Hare Krishna very attentively, but if sometimes the devotees while driving they chant Hare Krishna, it's good, at least you're chanting. But if I start chanting Hare Krishna so attentively that I don't pay attention to it driving, and then go into some other lane and hit someone, well, at a material level there's going to be consequence of that. Or chanting Hare Krishna, at a spiritual level there will be benefit of chanting Hare Krishna. But when we are living in the material world, we have to also function properly at a material level. So, just because we are devotees doesn't mean materially we can do anything and everything is alright. At the material level, actions will have consequences. But just because at a material level we are doing something wrong, does not mean at a spiritual level our devotion is lost. The devotion is still there. So, an example to illustrate this. That, say if you have to drive to a particular place. At that time, you may use Google Maps, Google there, okay, go here, go right and turn here. I suppose instead of turning right, I turn left. Then what does Google do at that time? Reroutes and redirects. So now, but if I have taken a wrong turn, still there is a path for me to get to the destination. But the wrong turn has a consequence. That is, I will be deleted. If I take another wrong turn, again Google will reroute. And still there is a path for me to get to the destination. But each wrong turn will have the consequence in terms of delaying my arrival at the destination. Similarly, say Krishna is like Google. Now, if we commit mistakes, no matter how many mistakes we commit, Krishna is there with us. And from wherever we are, Krishna will give us a path. So, if we are feeling so discouraged, I have this conditioning, I have that conditioning, I have that conditioning. No, whatever conditioning I have, Krishna has a path for me to come to. So let me not get too bogged down by my conditions. Let me try to serve Krishna as well as I can. But if I start thinking, I am a devotee of Krishna, Krishna will take care of me, whatever I do, it's okay. Then you will understand, yes, ultimately it will be okay, but every wrong thing that I do, it will have consequences. So we don't want to let our conditionings discourage us in our bhakti. But at the same time, we don't want to let ourselves become loose in our bhakti because of our conditionings. So we want to keep our intention strong, but just intention is not enough. Intention has to be translated into attention and action. Sometimes if it doesn't happen, then it's okay. But on a normal level, just intention is not enough. Like it is said that sometimes you can do Manas Puja. If you cannot offer Krishna delicious bhoga, cooking, just offer him in the mind. You cannot offer Krishna a jewel necklace, you can offer him in the mind. The Manas Puja is good, but when actual puja can't be done. If I think I am going to donate to Krishna, in my mind I think I want to donate to Krishna $1 million necklace, and I don't give $10 to Krishna in donation. And that is not Manas Puja. That is, we could say, just a mind, Manas Bhram it is. Our mind is simply deceiving us. So, we have to see upon time, place, circumstance. A person becoming discouraged because of their conditionings, the intention, just maintain the intention. Whatever you can do, you do it. But if somebody is using the name, using intention as justification for not trying to do anything about their conditionings, but conditionings will have consequences. So what aspect of philosophy has to be emphasized when? That has to be seen according to time, place, circumstance. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, any of the Matajis have questions? Yes, true.
Yeah, so I'll try, how best I can ask this, but getting into, the spirituality and all this, we thought it's
okay, we can get in and it's easy, but once you get in, it seems to be very, 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 very complex. With various levels and nectar of devotion, and we are even today's discourse or all the things we are hearing. Is basically we are applying our Kali Yuga's or modern way of education to deeply analyze and put various measurements and scales and this and that, right? So my question is, like, if you go back to Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga and all, and also knowing lots of great devotees like Shabari or Hanuman, or they didn't know all these like nectar of devotion and so many complex ways of interpreting and understanding the devotional service aspect, right? So without even any knowledge, they are really able to surrender, able to reach that destination or even that journey, right? So what is that minimum thing really was there or is required, rather than putting a lot of these modern complex dimensions around the spirituality?
Okay. So in the past we had devotees like Shabari simply devoted to the Lord and they attained the Lord.
Exactly.
But we have something complex analysis of the mind or complex modern conceptions which apply to spirituality to analyze and understand. So what is the basic minimum that is required? See, the basic minimum that is required is what will take us towards Krishna. Each of us is different, and we can't exist like a transcendental bubble in the material world. We all are products of our upbringing, we are all products of our culture and all these influences. So the growth of devotion requires that, say, I am here, Krishna is here, I want to go from here to here. Now, we have to find out what are the obstacles that are there between me and here. And we address those obstacles. And when we address those obstacles, we move towards Krishna. So, for different people in different cultures, in different ages, even in different countries, the specific obstacles may be different. So today, in the world we live in, the mind is a big problem. Now, was the mind not a big problem in the past? It was always a problem, but the sheer magnitude. I have a whole class on why the mind is more agitated, but that will not go into that. But overall, the mind is a big obstacle for people. So then, if that is an obstacle, then we have to discuss how to deal with it. If for someone that is not an obstacle, then they don't have to get into that kind of discussion. They just hear that discussion and okay, there's one more class I heard. But what inspires me in my bhakti, I have no problems. Bhakti is, the process of growing in devotion is about identifying what blocks the flow of our devotion and removing those blocks. If somebody is from a very scientific background, and if their scientific study makes them feel, oh, there is no God, there is no soul, then scientifically those questions need to be addressed. But if somebody doesn't have that science, somebody may be little science education, but they don't have those concepts, then they don't need to discuss that. If somebody is from a very logical, rational background, you need logical explanation. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Some people, they just know, okay, I do this, this is what my ancestors did, this is what I have been told to do, and I do it, I feel good also, so let me do it. So the important thing is that we have to identify what are the blockages in our devotion and how to deal with them. In the past, people's minds were not that complicated. So one of the characteristics of Kali Yuga is upadhritaha. Upadhritaha means the mind is agitated. So when our mind is agitated, we have to deal with the agitated mind. So how do we deal with it? Well, whatever it takes to it. There are, instead of devotees having troubled minds and then going to psychologists who may not understand devotional principles and who may give some guidance which may not exactly be, which may actually not help much in terms of spiritual growth. If we can take the principles of psychological analysis and show how they can be integrated in the practice of bhakti, how we can become more aware, then that can help devotees to remove those obstacles. So in general, if we find that some kind of, some discussions are becoming too technical, too analytical, and we don't feel that it is stimulating in our devotion, okay, then we just hear that or read that as a service, and we move on towards that which stimulates us the most. Because all of us are different individuals, so the shoe that bites one, shoe that fits one leg, bites another leg. So same discussion which might be illuminating for one person, it's so exhausting for another person. That's fine. So we while hearing and studying in bhakti, we look at what is favorable for our devotion and we take that. And whatever we don't feel is favorable, we keep it at a distance and we move onwards. Okay? Yes, please.
I have one more, kind of a more basic question about the mind, right? Sometimes mind we kind of give analogy and say mind is like a child, and sometimes the mind is like a TV or window or computer. So if someone asks us, how do you define a mind? What is mind? Is it like a thing or a function? What is it?
Okay.
I mean, my level is sometimes so difficult.
At a fundamental level, what is the mind? Is it a thing or is it a function? It is both. It is a thing that functions in a particular way. So the mind is basically the interface between the soul and the physical body. Just like for a person using a computer, the software is the interface between the user and the physical hardware of the computer. Similarly, the mind is the interface between the body and the soul. So the mind is made of subtle matter. It is also physical. Sometimes in modern terms, people say mind over matter. So they think that mind is not matter. So they use the word mind to refer to something non-material. But the Bhagavad Gita explains that the mind is also material, but it is subtle matter. So what exactly is the mind? You could say the mind is the tool within us through which the subtle aspects of, especially of subtle functions of integrating whatever input comes into us, that is done. Shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam evacha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Krishna says all these inputs from the various senses, they come into the mind and they are integrated and presented to the soul by the mind. So the mind is, you could say, the subtle force, subtle object, subtle thing that integrates the inputs coming from the various senses and presents them for the soul to respond to. Does that answer your question? Yes.
Prabhu, you spoke about the negative thought, the positive thought, being able to address it, acknowledge it, move it, and so on. What's your take on sometimes in the mind, there's a monologue that goes on, and call it a tape. You're so agitated, like you said, it keeps going on. Sometimes more often, quite a bit than other times. So are those thoughts also, or is that a momentary, is that more a present thing? Because thoughts are usually something that has occurred, or in the past, or...
Okay. So in the mind, sometimes the monologue goes...
And also, one more, and how to address that, right?
Okay.
Is that lack of focus, or is that...
Sometimes the monologue just goes on in the mind. Mind is saying something like this, like this. So is that just a thought? Thought we would say just like a one-time occurrence. Well, thought can also lead to a train of thoughts. So it's one thought leads to another thought, or the same thought keeps getting repeated in some way. Basically, based on the conditionings that are there in the mind, the impressions that are there, certain things keep popping up in it. So the mind, I largely talked in terms of the mind as a screen with images coming in. But I have a whole other series of analysis of the other classes of the mind and about how the mind is like a storyteller. So the mind not only shows us certain things but also speaks. Just keep speaking, keep speaking. So when that happens, we have to treat it, it's like is like, say in our house a radio is going on. And that radio is broadcasting something. And not in our house, in our neighbor's house, but it's so loud that we hear it also. We can't stop it. So what do? After some time, okay, just focus on what we're doing and then it goes into the background. So basically the monologue will just keep going on and on and on. And if we try to engage with it, it becomes very difficult. It's like the mind is an expert marketer. Sometimes some people, they're telemarketers, they make phone call. And just pick up the phone call, then in 5 minutes they will make us want to purchase the thing. Even if you try to tell them why I don't want it, they will find out, no, why you need it. So what happens if we have identified a particular phone number as the number of a telemarketer, then don't pick up the phone. So like that, we can over a period of time identify certain typical thought patterns of the mind. Say for example, if the mind starts getting depressed, oh, then the depression story started now. Or that is the resentment story started. That is the addiction story started. Resentment story means the mind started resenting. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Addiction story means the mind starts saying, you are never going to be able to give it up. Just do it now. Rather than doing it, so once you identify it, it's like if some people just make some telemarketing calls to us. Identify this is a telemarketer. Don't pick up the phone. So basically, we will not pick up the phone not just by knowing who is calling, but also by having something more better to do. That's why identifying ourselves as servants of Krishna and having some constructive service of Krishna is so important. That positive focus, the devotion and the direction which I want to keep moving, that is what helps us to say no to whatever the mind may broadcast. So the monologues come again because of the past impressions in the mind. They just keep coming up. They can come as images, they can come as voices. But if we don't engage with them, we keep moving forward and gradually the monologues, their volume and their intensity goes down.
I was just thinking the example that you gave about the girl, within a few minutes or whatever period of time, she was ready to, she looked up the story, was ready to commit.
Yes, that's true.
The mind is talking.
The mind is talking and we have to stop listening by listening to something else. Yes.
Prabhuji, so you were saying that whatever inspires us in our bhakti, that everybody's different, so you follow whatever inspires you. But what's the balance between that and also maintaining the essentials? Because sometimes there are things that may not necessarily feel good, like not everyday chanting rounds feel so inspiring, but that's essential. So how do we keep that balance in mind?
Okay. So balance in bhakti and God, what is required for our purification? Yes. Actually, the best situation is when that which purifies us also inspires us. But sometimes that may not be there. So we have to accept the ideal. At the same time, we also have to accept the real. So chanting is the most important thing. Yes. But after chanting, I don't feel spiritual strength. Rather, I feel exhausted. Then, if I tell you chant to get spiritual strength, then maybe in the long run I am getting spiritual strength. But in the short run I am very exhausted. Then I may have to find time to do something else to get the spiritual strength. Then I will say, I just hear for 15 minutes. Maybe hear some talk or read something. That gives me strength. So, we have to do certain activities because we know that they are good for us. But we can't just keep doing something with the conception that is good for me and not experiencing the result. So we also need to experience the result right now. So we have to, as I said, accept the ideal and also acknowledge the real and find a balance. If I say, oh, this is all I like to do, so this is all I will do, then the problem is that we may not really become purified. Because purification also requires sometimes going against the mind. So if I consider this is a circle of bhakti, and this is a circle of what my mind likes, or what I like. Don't use mind. The mind is where our likings are stored. But this is what we like in general. So the intersection of the two is where we can be comfortably situated. Okay, I like philosophy. And then when I want to discuss, that's very good, I want to discuss it. We can immediately connect with it. But by being in that intersection, I use the energy of the mind to move towards Krishna. The mind has its energy like this, so it will move towards Krishna. That's good, and we need that. At the same time, we also need to go beyond the mind. So we need to also sometimes go in this zone, where it's something which the mind does not necessarily like, but we have to do it for Krishna's service. So if we only do this, then we will feel drained. We will be getting purified, but we will not be enlivened right now. But if we do only this, then we will be enlivened right now, but we will not be getting purified. So we need a balance of both. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we were talking about the intention toward, Krishna, always serving Krishna. For me, intention or always focusing on Krishna, it seems still mind level, because when I fail, I don't choose to intention or putting the thought. It just comes, and I can't even control. You know what I mean? It feels like, but it's not mindful. So we are always talking about being mindful, always focusing, and this the time when I feel it, it's like a compassion. It's not like in my mind. It's not my attention. It just raises. And I can't even ask it to come back. So for me,
ask it to ask God to come back?
Like a compassion state, for instance. Let's say toward my patient, for example. I'm a nurse, right? Or toward serving, even in the temple or anything. Okay. But it's not a state of mind or intention. So for me, intention is still the mind. It's not how you feel. So how do you define that?
So, is intention also is a state of the mind, product of the mind? Sometimes we feel compassion, sometimes we feel the desire to serve, but sometimes we just don't feel it. So is our intention also coming from our mind only? Well, I would say that is more of our emotion agreeing with our intention, or our emotion stimulating our intention. That means, some days I just feel I want to study the Bhagavad Gita. I'm eager, as soon as I get a few minutes, I'll read the Bhagavad Gita. But those times may be rare for us. Other times, okay, no, I want to study the Bhagavad Gita, that's my plan, I have to do this exam, I have to complete this book. So I just make it as a duty and read it. So sometimes our emotions may propel our intentions. Sometimes our emotions may obstruct our intentions. Emotions can work in various ways. So by intention, I am talking about more of the conviction that I am going to do this, no matter what, whether I feel like doing it or I don't feel like doing it. So basically, we can't much control our thoughts and feelings, but we can control our intentions and our actions. What I want to do, whether I feel like doing it or not, the thoughts connected with that are coming in my mind or not, that's not in our control. So, I may feel anxious, but I can still, in a sober way, try to do things. I can't remove the anxiety. Say if I'm driving through a crowded place or a stormy area, I start feeling worried. I can't get the worry to go away, but still I can make sure that I have my hands hold on to the steering wheel tightly, properly, and I keep moving the car properly. So, when we are talking about the mind producing something, it is more of the emotions that are coming in. And sometimes the emotions themselves may trigger an intention. I feel like doing it, so I will do it. But if we are treating patients, sometimes we feel like treating them, sometimes we don't feel like treating them. Or other people say, but still we treat them. It's not that, say, a mother, she always feels overflowing love for the child. She feels love for the child, that's natural. But sometimes the child wakes up in the middle of the night and starts crying. The mother will not feel love. The mother will just feel annoyance. She will still take care of the child. So the intention is there that I'll take care of my child. But still, the emotion may not be there. So we can say the intention is what comes from the soul. And the emotion what comes from the mind. So Shall we stop here? We can take one to one.
Last.
Last question, okay. Who has it? Okay.
I think this young man's been
Yes,
asked
please.
for a long time.
Yeah, we can talk afterwards. You asked a lot of questions, Mayuri. We'll talk later.
Roshi, how, when you said for the mode of goodness contemplation before you act, so let's just say you're in a meeting situation.
Arena?
If you're like in an emergency situation, so you only have moments and seconds of time to think. So how do you, like, how is there like a certain way to act upon a certain situation? Because you can't analyze.
Good point. So, if we have only a few moments before acting on a particular situation, so how can we act in goodness? So I have only a few moments to answer your question. So how do I ensure that I answer properly? And if I don't know the answer, I will say I don't know the answer. If I have studied adequately, then I will know the answer. So basically, if we keep doing a particular thing repeatedly, that thing becomes instinctive for us. Inside us, there can be two kinds of actions which do not involve conscious intelligence, or two kinds of forces. One we can call as impulses and the other is instincts. Both impulses and instincts are impressions that are stored inside us. Usually the impulses, they are unintelligent. That means I eat one thing and something says eat a little more, eat a little more, eat a little more. That's impulsive. So impulses just, they make us act against our intelligence. But instincts are like programmed intelligence. Some people, they're just so good at music. Just come into a room, first time they pick up a kartal, just know how to play the bass. Some people, they're so good at housekeeping, at interior design, just come into a house and they say, okay, you move this table here, you put this chair here, you move this here, look much better. And somebody else, they look at the house for hours and they don't get the idea how to do it. So for these people, it's not that they consciously thought about it, it's just intelligence is there with us. So some instincts, we are just born with those instincts. And some instincts develop also by training, by repeated practice, repeated training. So I give the example of a firefighter. An ordinary person, when they see a fire, they may just panic. A new firefighter may also become a little overwhelmed. But a trained firefighter, they may also be a little horrified for a moment and see a big fire. But immediately, they say, okay, what? Go here, attack this fire. So basically, sometimes when a situation demands immediate action, we just do what seems right at that time for us. But later on we can think, we can learn, okay, what could I have done in this situation? And then if we are encountering that situation repeatedly, then we plan ourselves. We plan, okay, then we prepare for it, and that becomes, that training if we give ourselves, then it becomes it becomes instinctive for us. So there is no specific, if we just have very few moments to decide what to do, then we just do whatever makes sense or whatever feels right for us at that time. But later on we learn. We look back and learn, maybe this was not the right thing, I could have done this. And as we keep introspecting, as we keep doing the right thing, then gradually that right thing becomes programmed within us. And then that becomes the default action for us. So when our, say, spiritual instincts become strong, then when we are confused, when we don't know what to do, at that time, first thing, our spiritual instinct, we pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help me. And that is a good spiritual instinct. And that connection with Krishna then will give us guidance and clarity of how to move forward this. Okay?
What about in anger? Like once you've dealt with so many people, like you said, your anger has been accumulated to a certain point where it's like a bomb and you have to burst. So how do you control it and stay and keep it inside?
Okay, if the anger has already become like a bomb that is about to explode. How do we keep it inside us? We can't keep it inside us. But just because it can't be kept inside us, doesn't mean that it has to be thrown at someone. Sometimes, if say you might have seen in movies, somebody set a time bomb, and then you can't actually turn off the time bomb. So what you have to do is, you get the time bomb off the place and throw it somewhere else where it will not cause injury. Or you get out of the danger zone. So like that, we all need some safe zone for expressing our emotions. And we can all find out if we have some friends, even one friend who understands us well, or one relative, one family member, whoever it is. So when we are getting frustrated, at that time, if we keep just pressing down, at one point it will become impossible to keep pressing. So before that breakdown point comes, we need to vent it. But not vent it in a way of exploding, but in a atmosphere where we understood. This person did this, and I feel so bad about this. I feel so upset about it. Yeah, somebody understands. Yeah, I understand. It must be very painful for you. And then they will give us some perspective to better process it. See, most often, anger is not just because of what the other person has done. Anger is more because we feel that we are not understood. And that person did that's okay. I mean, that's a bad thing. But what you did will hurt me so much. What you did make me like that. And you didn't care for my feelings. You didn't understand me. That is what hurts us most. So if we have some friends who understand us, and there's a zone in which we can be understood, then that protects us from the unwanted expression. So sometimes I'm an author, so I correspond with a lot of people by writing. So sometimes I just get angry with someone with what they have done. Then when I'm angry, I just type out all my anger in an email. But then I have a policy that for 24 hours I will not send that email. So if I don't type that email, that anger will burn me. But if I send that email, that anger will burn that person. So keep that in limbo. Type it and keep it there. And most often, in those 24 hours, what happens is, when that person writes something and says, actually it was like this. Person says, oh no, it was like this. They clarify or they apologize, or we also get some further information you didn't know, and then things get resolved. Or if they don't get resolved, after 24 hours, because we have vented out, at least the pressure within us is gone. And then we look at it. And what I do is, I look for the whole email. At this point, it's a valid point, but I'm speaking it in a very harsh way. Let me soften this. At this point, I'm making a judgment that this might not be true also. I have to get more information about this. This point is a valid point. At this point, I'll include it. So basically, then I edit that whole thing. And then I edit that and send it. I've seen many times the conflict, instead of getting escalated, gets resolved. So we can't wish away our anger, but at the same time, we don't have to be blown away by our anger. We don't have to express it. So we have to find some safe zone. Either we have some friend to whom we can speak it, or we can make our own diary. We can make our own diary or journal somewhere where we can speak it. We can speak it, and then we can process it afterwards. So we have our mind and we have our intelligence. So the mind, let it have its say. Sometimes if we don't have a friend, then what we do is, let the mind have its say by writing down. And afterwards, let the intelligence look at what the mind has said. And then process it. So sometimes we think of emotions, either I have to express the emotion or I have to repress the emotion. But our whole process is that process the emotion. Process it so that it can be expressed in a healthy way. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.